3, 2, 1. You're live.
Yo, what's up? This is Trill OG, Bum B, Rep UGK for life. You're now tuned in to Sports Rap Live, baby. Now on Sports Talk 790 AM.
Shout out to the Trill OG out there on the roads,
Holding
the highways and byways of North America out there on that Gumball 3000. Now, if you guys tuned in late and you heard us talking before we went to break, we were talking about these new Asian jumbo shrimp that are taking over the Gulf. Jumbo tiger shrimp that are taking over the Gulf.
Yeah,
I think they're probably getting big on those on all the oil. Like if they eat oil, that would make sense. But I don't understand what they're doing to get that big, other than eating another shrimp.
Well, P90X, bro.
we got them on our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Twitter page. All of our social networks right now are being attacked by the killer cannibal tiger shrimp.
Nice.
You can find them at Sports Rap Live. That's Rap with 2 P's.
They're enjoying the weather just like everybody else is, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's beautiful before it gets too hot. And there's been a lot of hot action on the NBA courts, and that's why we're going to open up the rap sheet brought to you by Houston's top DWI lawyer, Gary Trichter. You heard the ad as we came back into break. Of course, if you're getting yourself some trouble, we'll tell you the phone number and the website to go to get yourself out of trouble by calling Gary Trichter. But right now we're going to start in the Western Conference with the Western Conference Finals for our NBA wrap-up. And it is the Spurs versus the Thunder. And we have that live on pretty much every screen here tonight. If you guys want to stop by Junction Bar and Grill, 160 West Gray in the shadow of downtown Houston, make sure you come say hello and grab a seat. It's Yo-Yo Sundays, but hey, the drinks are cold.
I do see baseball on one screen. Just so happens to be the screen exactly in front of Andrew Martinez.
They keep it where I want it.
Nice. All right, well, Tito's bringing that Mobb Deep in. I think we got lyrics on that one, so we might have to mix it back into the instrumental for that. But that is the new NBA campaign. You were really surprised to see the Spurs with the Mobb Deep track on.
Yeah, man, that's kind of crazy. I didn't know they'd go that far back. I mean, they've had some memorable songs the past few years. I mean, what did they have? They had Kanye's Amazing.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else they had. I think
they had Jay-Z.
They had Black Eyed Peas, Let's Get It Started.
Of course.
What did they have by Jay-Z?
Jay-Z, they had what was off of the Kingdom Come album, Show Me What You Got, Little Lady.
Oh,
Show
wow.
Me What You Got.
Little Lady.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well,
it wasn't a WNBA ad.
yeah,
It was
but
the instrumental from that
They
track.
kind of dug really, really deep for that Mobb Deep track. I mean, that track's what, 20 years old?
Almost. It's running up on
Really?
that.
Wow.
That's older than I thought it was.
So,
Yeah, it's taking it back for sure. For sure.
and there it is
just like-
right there. He brought it back for
Yeah,
us.
he did.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Womp, womp, womp. Flop on that. I'll take the technical foul on that one.
2 minutes for icing. All right, well, hey, it seems like we've waited. We had to wait a few weeks for this matchup, but finally it has begun tonight. And the Spurs with their 4 championships, as they show the banners right now on the broadcast, and the Thunder, who are hungry to get there first, now rather than later.
Don't you think it would almost be sort of, I don't know if it's poetic, but you could almost write it as like a movie script of the fact that, the zombie Sonics could maybe fulfill their destiny of, moving cities, eventually getting kicked out of their own, and could win an NBA championship. I think it's pretty crazy, that they could have made it this far from where they were, as a team that have basically restructured themselves after getting kicked out of Seattle.
Yeah, it's not the same team. I mean, it's the same franchise, but it's not the same team.
True.
So,
What are you guys thinking about this series? Give me your thoughts, Kadoma.
I mean, it's tighter. It's a lot tighter than I thought it would be. I thought the Spurs would have a clear advantage at home, but it's it's going back and forth here, and nobody's really shown dictation of the tempo or the style of play, and it just looks like both of them are going at it pretty hard. So I'm excited to see how it pans out.
Of the games, I think I could see Oklahoma City win, and I think it's going to probably be a 6-game series that San Antonio wins. But you're probably going to have one game where it's going to have to be a James Harden game where he scores 30 points and he goes off. You're probably going to have one game where it's an insane Westbrook game, and maybe he makes some sort of game-winning shot, or it's Durant who makes a game-winning shot like we saw, like he did in the round before. But other than those two kinds of games, I really can't see a consistent team effort that they're going to be able to put forward and get that win against the San Antonio team. Mostly because I think San Antonio, if they're missing their threes, that's where they could lose and start to fall behind. But San Antonio is just so fundamental, and they don't get phased when they start to lose. We saw in the Clippers series when they were down by 24 points, 22, 24 points. They didn't look phased at all. They didn't look worried. They still swept the series.
And they didn't pack it in.
No,
a lot of teams would have packed that game, and it's we'll go the next
we
one.
even thought that maybe Pop might pack it in. Maybe decide, you know what, this just isn't our night. We're going to go ahead and get it done and get everyone rested and get everybody for the next game. But that's not the case at all. So I think that's also a big factor is the fact that having Pop is such a huge advantage. I'm not saying Scotty Brooks is a bad coach, not by any means. He's obviously a very, very good coach. But Pop at this point is a much, much better coach and much more experienced and having been in this spot.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, I called it on Thursday night. I said, I think it's going to go to 7 games, and the clear advantage is Popovich. I think Scotty Brooks met his match. All of you other guys said Spurs in 6, except for Tito, who called for the Thunder.
I'm saying it's Thunder in 7.
Do you think they will go 7?
They will take it at the end in San Antonio. I just think that the I don't know, there's just a hunger on there. It's a younger team. I mean, don't get me wrong, San Antonio's not the same quote-unquote boring team that they used to be. They're actually more of an exciting team to watch. They play like a young team, but I don't know, there's just something about the way OKC plays. And like the key elements are exactly what Andrew says. You're going to need Westbrook, and you're going to need the other players to step up and have those amazing games in order for it to happen, because Durant is going to be there every game.
I just really wonder where Oklahoma City is going to get their scoring from, because if James Harden's not on the floor, they start to become sort of, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but two-dimensional. It's either going to go to Westbrook's hands, and you know he's going to do something and create, and you can double him, or it's going to go to Durant's hands, and he's going to have to do something. If James Harden's not on the floor, they really lose that third scorer. Whereas if you look at San Antonio when they're on the court, Adam, they pretty much can go to anyone they want to. They can go to Duncan, they can go to Ginobili, they can go to Parker off the dribble, or they can try and get the ball inside and kick out to one of their three-point shooters. I don't really know if Oklahoma City has that next gear in their offense.
And I agree with you with that as well, Andrew, but this is where I think that they're going to find that. This is a time where they're going to have to step it up, and they're going to have to find that missing link and make it happen.
And we just saw another classic Duncan spin around, baseline spin around that you'll probably be seeing.
Off the glass, by the way.
You'll probably be seeing it in slow motion for the next 20 years.
And a turnover, classic Duncan turnover.
This series sort of reminds me of the Miami Heat in the last round, in that you're going to get the big games out of your big two. But are you going to have that third scorer, in Harden and someone else? Also, it's just that those three players are going to have at least 20 points apiece every game, and their wins.
Well, who's the difference maker in this series? Ultimately, who's going to put it down? Well, of course, Soccer Talker Luis is a Spurs fan, so let's ask him your thoughts so far. Do you think that this older team, this veteran team, can run with these young guys?
I believe so. My biggest difference is going to be Tim Duncan, who Kadoma just mentioned, did that spin around jump shot. He knows this is last year to win the championship. So if he could get it, if he wins it, which I think he will pull a David Robinson and retire. But I think this is the main guy is Tim Duncan. He's rejuvenated, he's ready to roll, and he's ready to take it home.
One of the other mismatches I see on this series, Adam, is whenever you have Perkins and Ibaka on the court at the same time, you're pretty much not going to get any offense from either of them. You're going to be great on the defensive end and that they're going to be able to block off anything in the lane. But what are you going to do on offense? They're pretty much liabilities. And that's when I was talking about the 2 to 3 on 5. Is that they're really going to get exposed on the offensive end whenever they start to go with a lineup that has both those guys in there.
You got a Boris Diaw type player now that fits right in with what Pop does. You've got Splitter that comes off the bench. Well, and you still got Matt Bonner.
And the guy we had on earlier a couple weeks ago, Steven Jackson. You still have that guy who's a savvy veteran who will knock down a shot. He's not afraid at all.
And play defense on these young guys.
And we've also seen other guys, and that's the other thing is we've seen other guys on San Antonio step up in throughout the playoffs. We've seen Kawhi Leonard have big games. We've seen Gary Neal hit some big shots. We've seen even DeJuan Blair he's been a little bit banged up and whatnot, but we haven't seen him really assert himself yet. So it just seems like San Antonio has the depth in waves. They don't come at you with a second team. They come at you with another first team.
Like a shift.
Yeah, it's like a shift change. Exactly. That's a perfect analogy. They come at you with another shift change, just like in hockey, and I don't really know if Oklahoma has that second shift change for offense.
And that goes all right back to Pop. Pop has this team leveled like a cake with nice
but
icing.
He builds up to that too. He gets these guys
and cake.
He gets these guys worked up in the regular season, so where these guys that are sort of role players, they've played these sort of meaningful minutes in the middle of the regular season and been worked into the flow of the offense. Whereas if you look at Oklahoma City, at the end of the game they're going to get it to their go-to guys, and they have sort of their core rotation they go to. I don't really know if San Antonio has there's not really a rotation or a five guys out there that I wouldn't be surprised of seeing, because I have enough faith in Pop that he would be like, you know what, this guy's probably taken big shots for us before.
Well, Scotty Brooks has to have his main pieces on the floor pretty much the entire game.
Yes, there are times whenever
they can't go to their bench completely.
You can't have an offensive series where Oklahoma doesn't have either Durant or Westbrook out there at all times. Because if you don't, they're not going to have any scoring. And I think that's just I wouldn't be surprised to see if San Antonio consistently scored 100 and Oklahoma City scored 100 a couple times and really scored to get above 90.
It's going to be interesting because San Antonio, believe it or not, has led the playoffs in scoring and was in top 3 in scoring and offense in the NBA this year. Which, in the past they were known as a defensive team that would slow the game down enough to where if they scored 88 to 90 points, they were fine because they held you to 78. Now, their offense clicks so beautifully. It's like a sweet science. They call boxing the sweet science, but Pop's offense with Tony Parker, who is matured now at almost 30 years old, he's been playing in the NBA since he was 18, is now Pop extended onto the floor.
The only way you beat Pop, and the only way that I think that could see Scotty Brooks outman him and outthink him, is if he just goes with some crazy lineups. Like, play Durant at center. What happens if you go super small and you take out those 2 defensive guys I was talking about that'll slow down your offense? Get as many young, small guys as you can out there and see if you can get Duncan to play center against Durant. That's the only way you're going to get clear mismatches on your smaller guards.
All right. Well, so the difference maker is ultimately who for each team?
I think it has to be James Harden for Oklahoma City, because he's the one that's going to have to carry. We know that the top 2 for that team are going to carry their load, but it has to be Harden continuing to be that unsung hero, and he has to be that 6th man that's going to come off and lead that second shift change. I think for San Antonio, the difference makers, it's probably going to be it's tough to pick one of the guys. I would probably go with Ginobili, just because he had such a consistent regular season.
It's so funny because both those guys do exactly the same thing for their teams. So it's interesting.
Right.
Yep. All right, well, one guy who is a huge difference maker, if you get yourself into a situation, you can't get out of it, is Houston's top DWI lawyer. Who's that?
Gary Trichter!
Yeah, you heard it. The Rat Pack knows it is Gary Trichter, H-Town's top DWI lawyer. If you are going to have a drink, make sure you have a non-drinking designated driver as the shots come to the table right on cue. Or take a cab or a limo, because both cost a lot less than having to call Gary Trichter. If you do decide to drink and then drive, don't have any open containers of alcohol. Don't be doing shots. Don't be doing shots. Did you get one? Did you get one? Okay, no, go ahead, go ahead. Hey, get you one. Get you one. All right, Aaron says he's going to be right back so I can finish this live mention for our man, Gary Trichter. Follow the traffic laws religiously. Do not give an officer a reason to stop you. If you do get stopped, don't answer any questions about drinking because the officer is not going to believe you anyhow. Continue to be polite and ask for your lawyer, even if he says you can't have one. Because remember, a DWI is going to cost you 6 months in jail, a $2,000 fine, a $3,000 minimum, and a tax on your insurance. So save yourselves the time and trouble and put my man Gary Trichter's number into your phone right now. 713-524-1010. That's 713-524-1010, and visit him on TexasDWILaw.com. All right, well, hey, we're going to continue. Wow. Yeah, how's that feel?
Man.
Whoa.
That good?
Some rocket fuel.
Yeah, let's get it.
Oh, man.
Gary Trichter.
Yeah, let me go ahead and put that in my speed dial.
Yeah, put it in there.
Yeah, I need that number again.
All right, well, the NBA wrap-up continues in the East with LeBron and D-Wade facing some familiar foes they've had to battle over the years, not only together, but separately in their own Eastern Conference teams. And that being the Boston Big Three +1, and 2 guys that know all about that are going to join us in just a little bit, I hope, and jump on the line. But right now, do you feel like this is the last run for the Celtics, guys? This is it? The final hurrah?
I certainly hope so, because I don't want to see Ray Allen out there anymore the way he's been looking. This guy, I mean, he is just so, he looks like he's so just tired out there. If you watch him, it's tough to watch him because you've seen him just been a veteran for so many years and make so many big shots, but defensively, he just can't hold up out there anymore. In this last game, he was 3 for 11 on field goals with 11 points, 4 rebounds, 0 assists, and 1 steal. I mean, it used to be where he would have one game where he would pretty much lose the game for his team. I think it was the last couple playoffs he's had, certain games like that. And he's also had certain games where he's been able to step up and win games for his team. But now it seems like he's just a liability on the defensive end.
Yeah, I want to know what he's wearing on his calf muscles because he's got like 2 symmetrically placed Band-Aids on his calves. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Some people say it may be magnets, titanium. Like, what is that?
You know that titanium stuff is just sort of a myth. Like those titanium bracelets and those necklaces. I mean, people like I think it's the company Fightin' or whatever they make those. Those really don't do anything.
Well, it's doing something for Ray Allen because he's knocking down those clutch shots.
I mean, he made 2 critical 3-pointers at the end of that game, to kind of make that series. But overall, I was just not impressed with him defense. I can't imagine him playing defense against Dwayne Wade and Dwayne Wade not being the series MVP. Dwayne Wade's going to eat him alive.
Well, I don't know. That we'll see. We'll see.
Who do you put on Dwayne Wade, though?
I mean, it all comes down to matchups, and we're going to see how Doc handles the
I
Heat.
thought if Avery Bradley was still healthy, Avery Bradley would be probably the best defensive matchup in this whole playoffs for Dwayne Wade. But he's done. Exactly. I think he's having shoulder surgery, and he's out already had it. He's out for the rest of the playoffs and into the offseason. But without him on that defense, this team is really going to struggle to contain Dwayne Wade defensively.
Fun fact, this is only one of a handful of teams that have ever made the conference finals after being sub 500 at the All-Star break. And that's a testament to Doc Rivers.
Yeah.
That's a testament. They've been known to have slow first halves and turn it on right when it's time to turn it on.
I think even if you put Rondo on Dwayne Wade, I don't know what that does for Rondo on the offensive end, because Rondo is so much of the – you want him to be fresh on that offense. I would rather him play all offense and no defense, because if he plays just like he really tries to play both ends of the court, he's going to get burnt out. I mean, he's young and spry enough to where he could probably do it for a while, but come Game 6 or Game 7, he's going to be burnt out trying to play Dwayne Wade and play that sort of up-tempo offense of getting the ball up the court and creating all that offense for them.
Shout out Rondo for knocking down that clutch shot last night, basically putting the game away. I mean, after an awful first half again, another ugly first 3 quarters of basketball where barely both teams could score. I mean, the final quarter was just clutch shot after clutch shot on both ends, keeping Philly in the game till about the last 2 minutes when Rondo hit that shot.
That was such a terrible game for such a long time. It seemed like the first
one. It was a terrible series.
It was played at almost like a college level, seeing how many shots were missed. I mean, watching old Elton Brand get around out there, I'm happy that series is over.
Yeah.
I really am.
What do you expect from the Celtics Heat series? Do you expect the Heat to kind of dump truck the Celtics?
I think it's pretty interesting because in both conference finals, we have the young guns versus the wily vets. So it's going to be kind of odd to see what happens,
What series goes deeper?
Well, I want to say this, is that Chris Bosh is still out indefinitely. And I think if he were to play in this series, I could really see Miami probably get this series over a little bit quicker, because he could probably take away a lot of what Kevin Garnett does by himself. Not that he's some sort of great defensive player, but he's a clear answer to what KG does, especially being able to step away on the baseline and step out and take those 24-foot shots. Bosh is someone that feels comfortable stepping out and not just being there on the low block. So I think that this series definitely has the possibility to be much, much shorter, because you saw at the end of that Miami series whenever they were playing in Indiana, those last 2 games were pretty much bang-bang. LeBron and D-Wade had it going on. And when they get it going on, Adam, they're one of the best teams. It's fun to watch a team like that when they're really running playing at their top level.
Well, what do you guys think out there? Give us a call on the Silverleaf Ghost Pepper hotline, 713-212-5790. Jump on the line with us. Terrence will get you on the air for sure. We're still waiting on a couple friends from Boston. Hopefully call in and we'll get their takes on what the Celtics are going to do. As much as the Celtics struggle against the young Sixers, I don't know. This series could be over quick, like you said, Andrew, even without Bosh coming back at full strength.
I think it could be 6. I wouldn't say 5, only because I think that Boston is good enough to at least get more than 1 game in there. But this is really... If Dwayne Wade and if Dwayne Wade and LeBron James play like they did those last 2 games, it's going to be a quick series. But if they start getting, I'll tell you what, it's going to be set in Game 1. If Boston somehow figures out a way to win Game 1, that's going to set the tempo that this is going to be a long series. But I think if they go into Miami and they get their butt whooped, this is probably going to shape up to be a series that's going to go
5 games.
5 or 6.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't-
going to be pretty quick.
I don't think so. I mean, you got those grizzled veterans on the Celtics. I mean, if they take a hard loss, I think they'll find a way to fight their way back, even if it comes down to fighting their way back. They will, I mean, I see this becoming an ugly series.
No,
I don't. I see. I'll tell you at least.
I mean,
at least one game. At least one game in this series is going to be won by 20 points by Miami.
I mean,
at least one.
You started
not more.
two.
You
3.
started to see it a little bit with the Heat and the Pacers. I mean, it was getting ugly, and the Celtics are not going to take that.
Yeah, but you look at the Heat and the Pacers. That Pacers team is young enough to keep up with them. I think that you only have really Rondo on that team of the Celtics that's being able to keep up. Paul Pierce isn't going to keep up. He's not going to run the lane back on defense. Neither is Kevin Garnett. The only other player I will say that I think has a good chance of having a good series for the Celtics is Brandon Bass. He's actually asserted himself in this last series. I think he can have a pretty good series. But as far as everyone else in that Celtics team, being Grizzly veteran, that does not work against a team that's this athletic.
But I'm saying the Celtics will keep up with those playoff fouls.
Oh yeah, they're gonna hack them pretty hard.
They're
It's gonna be a
hack
physical
hard.
series. But when you start getting in that lane and they start running, it's probably gonna be one of the most mismatched series as far as fast break points.
I'm
Because
gonna give you that,
whenever
though.
LeBron gets running and Dwayne Wade gets running, no one's gonna catch them.
And I'm pretty sure we're gonna start seeing some injuries pop up. I'm telling you, Celtics are gonna get hit with injuries.
They're already banged up.
Oh yeah, they're already.
This is where they're out, though, man. I mean, come on.
The other thing is, if you want to look at like
That's it.
how a team creates offense, how does Boston create their offense outside of KG taking that 24-foot shot and Rondo getting in the lane and basically creating? If you shut down Rondo, which I don't know that they can, but if you can somehow slow him down, that offense, we saw it the whole last series. We just talked about how bad that Game 7 was and how bad all those games were. It was pretty much first one to 80 was going to win because Boston had such a tough time creating offense, also because their defense isn't as good as it used to be.
You know what? You guys called your shot at the very, very beginning of the playoffs from the onset that this was going to be an ugly, ugly playoff season in 2012. And it has been. There has been no real memorable games. There have been no classic games with classic. I mean, Durant had a couple last-second shots that he had to hit after they came back, but there really hasn't been those memorable.
Well, look what it had to live up to. Last season was probably one of the best playoff seasons that we've seen in quite a while. I mean, all those comebacks from the Mavericks and that whole series going back and forth between them and the Miami Heat. I mean, that was very fun to watch. But I mean, even the Lakers, they looked, they probably deserved to get swept in the second round for the second straight year.
Yep.
There was a bunch of sweeps in the Western Conference in the early rounds. I mean, the East has just been a slugfest, mostly because I think if Miami had Bosch, they probably would have not even toyed with Indianapolis, Indiana. But
Oh, yeah, I totally agree.
Very true. Very true.
I do not believe that. I don't think Bosch was too big of a factor. Because I saw Game 1, and he was playing, the time that he was playing in Game 1, the Pacers were still dictating that pace of the game.
But then again, you're talking about Game 1, you know, right when they start getting into the flow of things. After seeing the offense run a couple times, he's going to step it up defensively.
He better.
He has to.
Yeah.
He has to.
I mean, I definitely think he was missing in that series,
Oh,
but
yeah.
he wasn't the blame.
No.
The only way I see Miami losing this series is if LeBron goes into the old LeBron mode, where it's the shutdown LeBron. He's there's something going wrong with him off the court, or something's wrong with him mentally.
Michael Hitchcock.
I mean, that's the only way I could see him going into that sort of funk, and that's the only way they can lose this series. Because it seemed like at times in this last series, Adam, he sort of went there, but when it came time, I mean, he had a tremendous series against the Pacers. One of the best I've seen in a long time.
Worldly.
Yes.
Historical.
Yes, historic as far as NBA playoff level, you know.
I'm glad you brought that topic up because now that D Wade and LeBron have flipped the switch, the perennial flip the switch, they cannot afford to turn it off and on now. I think that they're going to have, even if and when Bosch comes back, they're going to have to continue to play like that throughout the rest of the playoffs.
Please.
Through the end of the finals, through the fourth quarter in every game in the finals. They're going to have to for them to beat Oklahoma City or San Antonio.
And please, someone for Miami start making threes. James Jones, Mario Chalmers.
Shane hit a few the other night in the closeout game.
You can't count on him to be making your threes,
Well,
though.
right. So what I'm saying is he did actually hit some threes, and it
But someone start to be consistent,
Open the
please, because
game.
that's the only way that this Miami Heat team is going to make a serious run from here to winning 4 games in June, is someone hitting threes.
Hey, well, you guys know we bring the best in sports, sounds, and sneakers, and we've got a pair of sneakers right here on the table tonight that our producer over here, DJ Tito, or Tito the DJ, as he is known on Twitter, brought to the table, and this was a hot button player that really got a lot of buzz here on Sports Rap Live because Kadoma and I were out in Vegas as this phenomenon, I guess you could call it, or Linsanity as they say on the streets, really started to kick off. And we have his signature shoe right here, which Tito's going to talk a little bit about.
Well, I mean, it's the Hyper Dunk, and to be honest, I can pass that on to Kadoma. He knows a little bit more about the Hyper Dunk than I do. It's the Hyper Dunk Low.
Well, I mean, it's a Hyper Dunk Low. It's a low-top shoe designed for, player like Linsanity, point guard player. And it features a lot of fly wire in the upper, for a lightweight. This version's all black with the orange swoosh and orange on the outsole. So, a little something to go with his final days in New York, as it might seem, as he may not be coming back to the team.
Oh, wow. Mike Woodson signed a deal. We'll keep a little Knicks talking here. Mike Woodson signed on to become the permanent coach of the New York Knicks, and we'll see how long that lasts as Andrew shakes his head.
Not long.
Not long at all.
If you want to talk about some NBA coaching stuff, there's some interesting scenarios out there.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about it, including Kyle Lowry.
Mike Woodson probably got re-signed because he will listen to the real coach, Carmelo Anthony.
James Dolan, too. Well, we'll talk about it right now. There were rumors that Phil Jackson wanted that Knicks job, but he would not basically bow down to James Dolan. I think if Miami does not win this the NBA Finals, Spoelstra is going to be gone. If they don't win the Finals, he's going to be the scapegoat. Someone has to leave. And I think people are going to point back to that game against where Dwayne Wade was kind of getting in his face and they had to be separated.
He ain't getting in Phil Jackson's face.
No, I think you could see Phil Jackson. You know who else has floated his name out there? He actually interviewed this week with a team, Jerry Sloan.
With Charlotte.
I think Jerry Sloan could get back into coaching. It's going to have to be the right scenario and the right team for him, but I think he could get right back in there. And also Jeff Van Gundy. I think Jeff Van Gundy could also get back in there. We still need to find out where Stan Van Gundy is going to end up. I don't think either of those coaches obviously would end up with Miami or Orlando, but I think those are guys to be following as well.
It would be interesting to see both Van Gundy brothers go back to their old teams.
No, not really. I'm not into that. Because if you want to do that, bring back Rudy T to the Rockets because apparently Kevin McHale is just not going to cut it, and Kyle Lowry has something to say about it.
Hey, Rudy T keeps his Rockets championship rings in his underwear drawer, but believe it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Little Sports Rap Live exclusive.
Absolutely. Grew up with the Tom Jonovich girls, man. Know Rudy T really well.
I bet.
Yes, and they are beautiful girls that went to St. Thomas More. So one of them's a doctor now, one of them's a fashion consultant. So go figure. Your dad's an NBA player, a world champ. He can do whatever you want to do.
Do what you want.
Speaking of doing whatever he wants to do, he pretty much does that when he's down there at the BBVA Compass Bank Stadium in downtown Houston. And he was there yesterday in the heat, or if you want to say it was the heat, for us Texas people, it's good, pre-summer, spring weather, Memorial Day. I guess a little too hot, thank you, Tito, for David Beckham and the boys from the LA as the Galaxy invaded downtown Houston. And we're going to talk about that plus hat-tricking. Hat-tricking against the world.
It's not if you got it.
It's if you're getting it. Riding around and getting it. We'll be right back on Sports Rap Live.
Wait a minute.